ベトナムは南シナ海の重要な海上航路に面しており、またインド洋と太平洋を結ぶメコン地域の東の玄関口に位置します。また、昨年は APEC 議長国を務め、2020年に ASEAN 議長国を務める予定であり、国際社会の存在感を高めております。このベトナムで今回の会議が開催されることは極めて時期を得たものと考えます。昨年の会議で日本から自由で開かれたインド太平洋の重要性を説明しました。今日、太平洋とインド洋の2つの大洋、さらにはアジアとアフリカの2つの大陸はその連関をますます強め、従来の地理的環境を超えたインド太平洋がより実感されています。インド太平洋で法の支配に基づく自由で開かれた国際秩序を維持・強化し、この地域をいずれの国にも分け隔てなく安定と繁栄をもたらす国際公共財として地域全体の平和と繁栄を確保していかなければなりません。日本は本コンセプトにおいて包括性、包摂性、透明性、ASEAN の中心性と一体性を基本原則として掲げており、その考えに賛同していただけるのであれば、2つの大洋の結節点に位置するASEAN やインド洋を要するインドは当然のこと、中国を含む国々と協力していけると考えております。そのためには、第一に、航行・上空飛行の自由、紛争の平和的な解決を含む法の支配を維持・強化することが重要です。本年、クアン国家主席が訪日した際に、安倍総理との会談でも、法の支配に基づく自由で開かれたインド太平洋地域の重要性を改めて確認されました。この点、特に海洋より具体的な南シナ海において、対話を通じ、国際法を尊重した紛争の解決ではなく、力を背景とした一方的な現状変更の試みが見られることに深刻な懸念を共有します。こうした行為は、航行の自由を損ないかねないものであり、強く反対します。関係国が紛争の平和的解決に取り組むよう要請します。その上で、南シナ海行動範囲の交渉のような取り組みが、現場の非軍事化と平和で開かれた南シナ海につながること、期待しております。先の ESA 参加国外相会議の議長声明において、南シナ海において信用及び信頼を損ない緊張を高め、地域の平和と安全保障及び安定を損なう埋め立てや活動に対する懸念に言及するとともに、国連海洋条約を含む国際法に基づく紛争の平和的解決及び非軍事化と自制の重要性が強調されました。このような南シナ海における法の支配の貫徹は、地域全体が強く希望するものであります。第2に、ベトナムが議長国を務めた昨年の APEC 首脳会議において、安倍総理が述べられたとおり、インド太平洋地域における膨大なインフラ需要に応え、地域全体の安定と繁栄を確保するためには、質の高いインフラを通じた地域の連結性の強化が不可欠です。この点、日本は2017年から2021年にかけて、質の高いインフラ輸出拡大イニシアチブのもと、官民合わせて約2000億ドルの支出しながらインフラ需要に応える取り組みを進めてきております。この中でベトナムにおけるノイバイ国際空港第2旅客ターミナル建設事業も含まれます。その他、ベトナムにおいては、地域の連結性の向上も念頭に、海メップチーバイ国際港開発計画などの国際港建設計画や複数の区間における南北高速道路建設計画を実施してきております。こうした日本の取り組みは、ベトナムにとどまらず、アジア、さらには中東、アフリカ、太平洋島しょ国でも実施しており、互いの連結性を向上させることにより、これらの地域の潜在力を 引き出すことが重要です。一方、インフラ開発は開放性、透明性、経済性、財政、健全性等の国際スタンダードに合致する必要があります。過剰な債務はその国の発展を妨げかねません。ベトナム、シンガポール等の ASEAN 諸国、インド、スリランカ、バングラディッシュ等の南西アジア諸国、中東諸国、アフリカ諸国、太平洋島諸国が高度なバリューチェーンで結びつけられた時代を作っていくことで、広域な地域全体の経済的繁栄を促進していくことができます。さまざまな脅威や不確実性の存在に伴い、インド太平洋では安全保障の基盤ともいえる法の支配に基づく自由で開かれた海洋秩序が脅かされています。この法の支配に基づく自由で開かれた海洋秩序の維持・強化のため、日本は地域の国々の能力構築、とりわけ重要な海上法執行能力構築を中心に力強く支援しております。これまで日本は巡視船の供与のほか、海洋状況把握、能力の強化や沿岸警備当局間の共同演習等を通じて、海上法執行能力構築支援を実施してきました。例えば昨年11月、日本は米国とともにフィリピン、ベトナム、インドネシア、マレーシアとの沿岸警備当局間の共同演習を実施しました。こうした演習は海上法執行能力の強化、ひいては法の支配に基づく自由で開かれた海洋秩序の維持強化にすると確信しております。日本としては引き続き海賊、海上武装強盗、違法無報告、無規制漁業、海上犯罪、テロ等の海洋における違法な活動の根絶に向けて、諸外国が海を守る能力を切れ目なく支援してまいります。このインド太平洋地域の平和と安定という観点からは、北朝鮮情勢についても触れる必要があります。我が国は米朝首脳会談において、朝鮮半島の完全な非核化に向けた金正恩委員長の意思を改めて文書の形で確認したことを、北朝鮮をめぐる諸懸案の包括的な解決に向けた一歩と支持しております。一方、北朝鮮は完全な非核化に向けた具体的な行動をとっているわけではありません。同じ域内にあるインド太平洋諸国を含めた国際社会が一体となって米朝プロセスを後押しすることが重要です。こうした観点から関連安保理決議に基づく措置を引き続き完全に実施しなければなりません。そして制裁緩和は時期尚早であり、また洋上の瀬取りへの対策も含め、抜け穴を防ぐ取り組みを維持・強化することも重要です。また、拉致問題の早期解決に向け、インド太平洋地域の皆様の理解と協力を何卒お願い申し上げます。最初に述べたとおり、インド太平洋地域全体の平和と繁栄を確保することが重要であり、その目的達成のため、日本は自由で開かれたインド太平洋の考え方に賛同するすべての国と連携・協力を進めてまいります。自由で開かれたインド太平洋を実現していく上で、鍵となる国の一つが、今次会議を主催しているインドです。モディ首相はシャングリラ・ダイアログにおいて SAGAR のコンセプトを掲げた太平洋は自由で開かれた包摂性を有する地域であり、法の支配や連結性とともに ASEAN の中心性と一体性の重要性について発言しました。日本としては、インドや米国、ASEAN 諸国をはじめとする関係国と連携して、地域の連結性向上に資する各種インフラ案件の推進や、海洋安全保障分野の協力等、具体的な取り組みを進めることによって、自由で開かれたインド太平洋戦略の下で目に見える利益を示していく所存です。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Minister, for that address. May I now request Her Excellency Alice Wells to please come up and give her talk. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to begin by thanking the India Foundation and our partners in Singapore and Sri Lanka for organizing this conference. Last year, the conference's theme was Peace, Progress, and Prosperity, and this year it's Building Regional Architecture. And this change in themes mirrors the need of the hour. We must transition from identifying the future we want to actively building that future together. Last month, Secretary Pompeo, in an address at the Indo-Pacific Business Forum, made clear that the United States is committed to supporting our words with actions and resources. Secretary Pompeo said specifically, the U.S. is not withdrawing from Asia. We've never contemplated withdrawing from Asia. America's own security and prosperity is intimately connected to the security and prosperity of this region. The Secretary outlined the U.S. commitment to ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific that must and will include an Indian Ocean region that values strong economic growth, a commitment to collective security, and an adherence to global norms that will allow for an equal and equitable playing field and encourage prosperity for all. I'd like to take this opportunity to more fully explain the United States' vision for the Indian Ocean region and to lay out a roadmap for how we, together with our partners, can achieve that vision. First, we need to expand economic engagement, in particular by addressing the region's infrastructure needs and encouraging regional interconnectivity through transparent and competitive foreign direct investment and responsible debt financing. Second, we need to continue to broaden and deepen our security cooperation to address the geopolitical, transnational, and environmental threats that could derail progress in the Indian Ocean region. And third, we need to reaffirm our commitment to a free and open air and sea lanes, a rule-based global order, and a region where a level playing field gives every nation and every citizen the opportunity to prosper. It hardly bears repeating what has been said before me, but the Indian Ocean region is one of the most dynamic in the world, with nearly half of the world's 90,000 commercial vessels and 2/3 of the global oil shipments traveling through the sea lanes. Protecting this open and unhindered flow is vital not only for the United States, but for each and every country in the region. The region boasts some of the fastest growing economies on Earth and is home to half of the globe's population. So the United States very much wants to be a part of and support this remarkable growth story, as exemplified by the $500 million compact signed in September of last year between our Millennium Challenge Corporation and Nepal, which will help to expand Nepal's road network and electricity transmission infrastructure. The United States' commitment to the economic well-being of the region is primarily expressed through support for private sector-led investments in sectors that are foundational to the Indo-Pacific's economic future. As Secretary Pompeo made clear, we know government spending alone can never address the Indo-Pacific's needs, and it's not the path forward for the Indian Ocean region. It will take the private sector to provide the estimated $26 trillion needed by 2030 for infrastructure investments in Asia. No government nor combination of governments has that kind of money. And in this regard, we're very proud that the United States private sector has a strong track record across the Indo-Pacific. Annually, the United States conducts $1.4 trillion in two-way trade with the Indo-Pacific region and is the source of over $850 billion in foreign direct investment, making the United States the region's largest trading partner and investor. Through OPIC, through a new development finance mechanism, and new initiatives to expand infrastructure, energy, and ICT investments, the U.S. will help stimulate private sector-led growth that honors local autonomy and national sovereignty. And for example, in Bangladesh, U.S. companies today rank as the largest source of foreign investment, with more than $3.3 billion invested. Chevron Bangladesh is the country's largest producer of natural gas, over 55%, and GE, with 30 gas turbines and 1,500 gas engines installed, is helping to generate 1/3 of Bangladesh's power capacity. SpaceX, one of the United States' most innovative firms, recently helped launch Bangladesh's first indigenous communications satellite. Yet many U.S. companies remain wary of investing in the region. And so we urge our partners to prioritize transparency, accountability, and responsible financing that will unlock trillions in private capital into their economies and into productive enterprises that bring jobs and prosperity to their people. Now, while we pursue a growth agenda, we cannot take our eyes off the threats that we all face together. Natural disasters, piracy and crime, and other threats to the region are ever present. We need to meet these threats to our collective prosperity through collective action. And for this reason, the United States is expanding our security engagement and cooperation across the Indo-Pacific. Our U.S. Indo-PACOM, with more than 380,000 military and civilian personnel, 200 ships, and nearly 2,500 aircraft, is engaged in strengthening relationships across a geography that comprises 7 of the world's 10 largest militaries, 9 of the world's 10 largest ports, and some of the world's busiest and most critical sea lanes. But we do not seek to control, dominate, or coerce. And as a post-colonial country ourselves, we appreciate sovereignty and territorial integrity. Rather, to quote Secretary Pompeo, where America goes, we seek partnership, not dominion. In the Indian Ocean, our security relationship with India, a major defense partner, exemplifies the spirit, and the upcoming 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi will showcase this vital partnership. India holds more military exercises with the United States than with any other partner. In June, we held our 22nd India, US, Japan, Malabar naval exercise, bringing together our largest vessels in a demonstration of interoperability and tactical prowess to protect the maritime domain. In August, we concluded our biennial REMPAC exercises, the world's largest international maritime exercise, with India and for the first time Sri Lanka and Vietnam participating. We hope that one day in the not too distant future, all the navies of the region can jointly participate in exercises and coordinate maritime activities to build a collective regional capacity. This year also saw the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group visit Sri Lanka in the largest port call to Colombo by any foreign military since World War II. The announcement to transfer a Coast Guard cutter to Sri Lanka, as well as a package of foreign military financing to help develop maritime security, peacekeeping, and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Along with new security assistance to Bangladesh and Nepal, the administration's Bay of Bengal initiative will help develop coastal radar-enhanced maritime domain awareness, maritime platforms for rapid deployment of humanitarian assistance and disaster response efforts, and increased information sharing mechanisms that complement India's development of a fusion center. This gets directly to the issue of the blindness that our Sri Lankan colleagues spoke of, and these are just a few of the many ways in which the United States is supporting partners across the region. At previous Indian Ocean conferences, we've discussed the relative lack of regional architecture or architecture in general and the underpinning structures that can help enshrine the region's commitment to a free and open rules-based order. Forces opposed to free navigation and consensus-based dispute resolution threaten to undermine the international rules and norms that have allowed for unprecedented global prosperity. Now, ASEAN, of course, is central to our efforts in the Indo-Pacific, and organizations like IORA can play a more dynamic role. But we hope that empowered alliances will assume greater importance in the Indian Ocean region. Through flexible regional groupings of like-minded partners, we seek to develop best practices that will encourage sustainable and transparent development, which can help countries avoid cycles of debt and weaken sovereignty. This year, we were glad to host an infrastructure working group in Washington for our Indian and Japanese development experts that began to address the issues of development finance and transparency practices for the Indian Ocean region. We also look forward to continued momentum in our quadrilateral cooperation with India, Japan, and Australia. Our approach to building these alliances will be inclusive. The United States has never been more committed to ensuring a free and open Indian Ocean region, and we urge our partners to reaffirm their commitment to create a region that respects international law as reflected in the Law of the Sea Convention, that ensures a framework for transparency and the peaceful resolution of disputes, and that supports economic, political, and social linkages throughout South and East Asia. Together, we're convinced that we can be strong, prosperous, and self-reliant. Thank you.
Thank you, and Her Excellency Alice Wells, for a clear articulation of the U.S. point of view on the way forward in the Indian Ocean region. May I now request His Excellency Llewellyn Landers, Deputy Minister of International Relations, South Africa, to come and give us his address. Thank you, sir.
For this excellent initiative, I want to begin by saying thank you and congratulations to the India Foundation and their constituents. And we also want to thank and congratulate the citizens and government of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam for their warm hospitality on this, my first visit to this beautiful country and the ancient capital of Hanoi. I have read the concept note on the theme of the third edition of the Indian Ocean Conference with great interest, and particularly its premise. We agree that the Indian Ocean region is of great strategic importance and value to the world in which we now find ourselves, and it is of utmost importance to safeguard and develop the region for the benefit of all its peoples. It is also argued that we need a new regional architecture to deal with the myriad security and socio-economic challenges facing the region. Respectfully, we would suggest that we have the necessary regional architecture to deal with these challenges. And our discussions should be on ways to strengthen this architecture to ensure that it is able to respond and deal with these challenges. In this regard, we would advance the view that any future regional architecture for the Indian Ocean region must have the Indian Ocean Rim Association at its core. This year, it's historic for us as it is the centenary year of the birth of former President Nelson Mandela, regarded widely as the founding father of IORA. In this regard, we remember that the formation of the Indian Ocean Rim Association has its roots in Nelson Mandela's remarks in 1995 when he said, and I quote, "The natural urge of the facts of history and geography should broaden itself to include the concept of an Indian Ocean Rim for socio-economic cooperation and other peaceful endeavors," close quotes. His vision became a reality 2 years later when in March 1997, the Indian Ocean Rim for Regional Cooperation, IORA-ARC, now the Indian Ocean Rim Association, was launched in Mauritius with 14 member states. Today, the association has 21 member states and 7 dialogue partners. It has become a strong and dynamic international body working to ensure an Indian Ocean Rim that is safe, secure, and sustainably developed. As you may know, South Africa assumed the chair of IORA in October 2017 with a theme, and I quote, "IORA, uniting the peoples of Africa, Asia, Australasia, and the Middle East through enhanced cooperation for peace, stability, and sustainable development," close quotes. This guiding theme for our chairship until 2019 encompasses South Africa's view that the Indian Ocean region should be characterized as a region of peace, stability, and development, and that we view IORA as the preeminent regional organization with which to pursue this ambitious goal. Indeed, maritime safety and security is a critical component and precondition for the economic activity and growth that is necessary for sustainable socio-economic development. As we move forward in this regard, it is very important to recognize that we did not assume the chair in a vacuum. We are building on a solid foundation laid by other important strategic partners in the region that have led IORA recently, such as Indonesia, Australia, India, and Iran. We recall that during India's chair of the association, 2011 to 2013, the work of IORA was streamlined and invigorated to become more focused and targeted towards the sustained growth and balanced development of the Indian Ocean region and of member states, and to create common ground for regional economic cooperation. IORA subsequently adopted the following 6 key priority areas. 1, maritime safety and security. 2, trade and investment facilitation. 3, fisheries management. 4, disaster risk management. 5, academic and science and technology cooperation. And 6, tourism promotion and cultural exchange. During Australia's chair, 2013 to 2015, the association changed its name to the Indian Ocean Rim Association, signifying this renewed vigor in the work of the association. Australia also enhanced the strategic focus of IORA through the adoption of the blue economy and women's economic empowerment as agreed priority areas that cut across the aforementioned 6 key priority areas. During Indonesia's chair, 2015 to 2017, the first IORA Leaders Summit to commemorate IORA's 20th anniversary was held in Jakarta on 7 March 2017. The summit's adoption and signing of the Jakarta Concord elevated the association's profile and stature to a significantly higher level and charted the way forward for the association into the next decade, beginning with South Africa's chairship. To this end, the Jakarta Concord provides the highest levels of commitment with which to make the Indian Ocean a region of peace, stability, and development through enhanced cooperation, including, but not limited to, the 6 priority areas. The IORA Action Plan provides a firm set of realistic and measurable commitments for the IORA Council of Ministers to implement the Jakarta Concord and to take IORA forward in a more outcomes-oriented manner. To this end, the action plan provides short, medium, and long-term goals to inter alia, promote marine safety and security in the region, enhance trade and investment cooperation in the region, promote sustainable and responsible fisheries management and development, strengthen academic science and technology cooperation, foster tourism and cultural exchanges, harness and develop the blue economy in the region, and promote gender equality in the economic empowerment of women and girls. To give effect to these targets, IORA, under our chairship, is strengthening its institutional mechanisms and bodies, including the Secretariat, and is in the process of establishing new, dedicated functional bodies to deal specifically with critical priorities in areas such as maritime safety and security, the blue economy, women's empowerment, and tourism. There's also a strong focus on enhancing trade and investment between IORA members, empowering the youth, ensuring the effective utilization of resources such as water and fisheries, and promoting research and development and innovation, including through the 2nd International Indian Ocean Expedition. The focus on key priorities and the establishment of these new bodies will enable us to have a comprehensive set of work plans to deal with the challenges being faced in the region, as well as to take advantage of the many opportunities that these areas bring to the fore. We are on a new and exciting trajectory, and we look forward to working with our partners to explore these opportunities in a coherent and organized way. In this regard, we are broadening and deepening our engagement with the IORA dialogue partners to enhance their role in and support for the core objectives of the IORA Action Plan. The unprecedented interest in IORA amongst countries wishing to be dialogue partners is testament to the progress that we are making in taking IORA forward as the preeminent international organization in the Indian Ocean. Furthermore, South Africa is committed to deepening and strengthening IORA's partnership with international and regional bodies, such as the United Nations, the African Union, ASEAN, APEC, as well as other important maritime bodies and symposia that focus on the Indian Ocean. We are particularly gratified that IORA has observer status at both the United Nations General Assembly and the African Union, and we look forward to strengthening our engagements with these important organs. In the case of the United Nations, we are collaborating with agencies and bodies such as the Food and Agricultural Organization, Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations, Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization for the exchange and dissemination of ocean data and information. We are in the process of finalizing a memorandum of understanding with the UN Institute for Training and Research. This cooperation and collaboration is in support of the UN's Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Sustainable Development Goal 14, which seeks to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Furthermore, as one of the many African countries of IORA, we are committed to working with the African Union in support of Agenda 2063 towards a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. In this regard, it is important to recognize that the AU has declared 2015 to 2025 as the decade of African seas and oceans. Likewise, at the regional level in Southern Africa, the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, is moving towards a strategy to develop a thriving maritime economy and to harness the full potential of sea-based activities in an environmentally sustainable manner. I'm sure, colleagues and friends, Your Excellencies, that you will agree that IORA is an organization on the move and one that cannot and should not be ignored. My appeal to you today is to look within the Indian Ocean region to the existing regional architecture, such as IORA, and find ways to work with it, to strengthen and empower us to play a meaningful and strategic role. The IORA Charter and the strategic vision encapsulated in the Jakarta Concord is an example that can be used to achieve our goals. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Minister, for laying out the importance of IORA and its centrality to the Indian Ocean Community Dialogue. I am sure it will continue to guide the activities of the countries in this region. May I now invite His Excellency Cho Byung-jae, Chancellor, Korean National Diplomatic Academy, South Korea, to give us his address.
Thank you. But by the way, we have many colleagues from Vietnam, Vietnamese friends here. No? Actually, I was going to congratulate Vietnam for beating Syria last night. Yeah. And fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, but tomorrow, then Vietnam will compete with South Korea. And director for Vietnam team is a Korean national. So that will be very, very interesting. And I want Vietnam beat South Korea. Yeah. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all take this opportunity to extend my sincere congratulations and appreciations to the India Foundation and the partners from Vietnam, Singapore, and Bangladesh, as well as the government of Vietnam, for successfully hosting this conference. I had the privilege of attending and addressing the second conference in Colombo last year, and since then, the importance of this conference has only been growing. The Asia-Pacific region is now being lumped with the Indian Ocean region. For a free trading nation like Korea, the Indo-Pacific is emblematic of economic prosperity. Our vital interests lie in the Indo-Pacific because it is an indispensable conduit for Korea's exports and energy imports. 85% of its energy supply comes from the Middle East across the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is Korea's key trade route as well. Therefore, safeguarding the peace and the stability of the region, especially the freedom of navigation and of flight, is critically important for Korea. Recently, the international policy community has been paying greater attention to how to build the regional architectures that ensure people-to-people exchange, mutual prosperity, and peace in the Indo-Pacific region. A number of new ideas and creative initiatives have been proposed, and some of them have already been put into practices. There have been Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, India's Act East policy, and Indonesia's version of the Indo-Pacific. The term Indo-Pacific has gained a universal currency when US President Donald Trump unveiled his vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific November last year in Da Nang, Vietnam. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo added details to this strategy by announcing America's Indo-Pacific economic vision last month. China has also put forward its Belt and Road Initiative as a means to enhance regional connectivity. A central tenet common to these various initiatives is how to bolster regional connectivity. Korea welcomes and is open to these various initiatives and ready to join forces to enhance digital and physical connectivity in the region. In the process of building regional architectures, I believe we needed to consider at least the following three principles. First, any kind of initiatives for building regional architectures in the Indo-Pacific should be based on open regionalism. Korea supports an open, transparent, and inclusive regional architecture where all the players live in harmony for peace and prosperity while respecting each other and abiding by international laws. Second, any emerging regional architecture should promote multilateral norms and institutions. It is imperative that trade be open, disputes be resolved peacefully, and the potential of a mutually beneficial cooperation be fully realized under the auspices of multilateral norms and institutions. Third, future regional architectures should be built upon the existing institutional resources. In this respect, ASEAN-led multilateral institutions such as ALF, ADMM+, and East Asia Summit should be fully utilized. In particular, East Asia Summit, whose membership includes 18 nations in the Indo-Pacific, can be a solid platform on which we can further build open and multilateral regional architectures. Korea fully supports the critical role that ASEAN has been playing in promoting regional cooperation. ASEAN centrality is an important institutional asset in the future regional architecture building process. Excellencies, the Korean government's new Southern policy also aimed to create an open, transparent, and inclusive Indo-Pacific by strengthening its partnership with countries in the region. As a matter of fact, Korea's diplomatic vision so far has been mostly confined to Northeast Asia due to geopolitical, economic, as well as historical reasons. The new Southern policy will provide Korea a new framework through which it can reach out to our partners and friends in ASEAN and the Indian Ocean region. During his visit to India and the ASEAN countries, President Moon Jae-in announced his vision to significantly bolster partnerships on 3 Ps, namely people, peace, prosperity, and to work toward fostering a future-oriented relationship. In particular, Korea aspires to be a reliable partner in working together to bring about practical and mutually beneficial cooperation. For instance, President Moon, during his visit to India in July this year, agreed with Prime Minister Modi to establish the India-Korea Center for Research and Innovation Cooperation and the India-Korea Future Strategy Group to jointly develop information and communication technology and advanced manufacturing technology. With Singapore, Korea launched a new cooperative partnership in the area of digital technology that would contribute to advancing the ASEAN Smart Cities Network. Korea also pledged to triple its Mekong Cooperation Fund by 2020 and expand on technology transfer and job training programs for small and medium enterprises in ASEAN countries. Excellencies, in Northeast Asia, the task of building a lasting and stable regional security architecture still remains an unaccomplished task. In September 2005, in the context of the six-party talks, we once spelled out a shared vision for establishing a multilateral security arrangement in Northeast Asia. However, as you are all aware, with the nuclear impasse afterwards, the idea has never come to fruition. Only recently, we find a silver lining on the horizon as the prospect for the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula looks brighter than ever before. What makes it unique this time is the fact that top leaders are prompting the denuclearization process. Decisions are made at the top and then delegated to the working level for implementation. This is an unprecedented procedure, and that I believe makes its success more probable than ever. Second, at its party Central Committee meeting in April this year, North Korea officially terminated its policy of parallel development of nuclear buildup and economic growth, and announced a new strategic line that focuses on economic development. In order for North Korea to develop the economy, international sanctions must be lifted, which in turn can only be achieved when it takes substantial denuclearization measures. At issue now is a declaration to end the Korean War that settled into an uneasy truce in 1953. An end-of-war declaration can simply be a political and a symbolic measure pending the ultimate establishment of a permanent peace regime on the peninsula. Nevertheless, it can have its own merits. It would help ease tensions on the peninsula and provide North Korea with a room to envision a new political imagination that would chart a totally different future path for North Korea. It is entirely possible that this new political imagination would lead North Korea to the imperatives of economic development, the mitigation of sanctions, and the denuclearization, thereby creating a positive cycle that interlocks paths toward economic prosperity and lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. It is, of course, I should emphasize that absolutely necessary that an end-of-war declaration should be adopted in tandem with Pyongyang to take concrete measures to halt its nuclear weapons program. A Korean peninsula without nuclear threat is a sure way to normalize North Korea's relations with South Korea, the United States, and Japan. In this respect, denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula is the key to building a lasting regional security architecture in Northeast Asia. Excellencies, I have no doubt that this Indian Ocean Conference is providing a valuable opportunity for all of us to share insights into creating open, transparent, and inclusive regional architectures in the Indo-Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chancellor, for laying out the principles of the architecture, for the architecture of the region. It is reassuring that Korea shares the same principles that drives much of the motivation behind organizing this conference. May I now request our final speaker, His Excellency William Samb, Minister assisting the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, for his address.
Fellow speakers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before I make my speech, I'd like to make an illustration. The word architecture, in its original meaning, refers to a building. The participants of this conference, Indian Ocean, you are the building. But the building is not complete until you have the boundary and the landscaping around the building. With that, on behalf of my Prime Minister, my people and the government of Papua New Guinea, we want to say thank you very much to the India Foundation, the organizing committee, and the beautiful people of Vietnam for organizing this event and inviting us. Living in a rapidly growing, globalizing world, where events and challenges are ever constant, as well as benefits, forums such as this help bring together to discuss and to find collaborative and cooperative ways of safeguarding our nations and people. As the theme of this important conference states, there is a need for renewal of the current regional mechanisms and apparatuses to improve and develop new ones that promote institutional collaboration and collaborative efforts. The Indian Ocean region covers enormous strategic importance for us all. Over half of the world's trade and transport pass through this important ocean. The security implications in this area are various. Also, the Indian Ocean region attracts geostrategic interest from all states located within and outside. By encouraging economic integration, this will lead to sustainable and inclusive growth. Therefore, it is imperative that all the nations support potential for competition and cooperation between each of the states. This, no doubt, will go a long way in promoting the Indo-Asia-Pacific region's growth. Also, all nations adhere to the international rules and standards will promote peace and prosperity in the century in our region. Papua New Guinea is a small island state in the Pacific that also relies heavily on international trade and maritime. It is the largest economy in the South Pacific region, blessed with a wide array of natural resources, and enjoys strong bilateral and multilateral relations with the nations in the Indian Ocean. Currently, we have investors from Japan, China, India, Malaysia, and all our friends in the region, and lately, Bangladesh. With a population of around 8 million, the country has adopted an international outlook and a policy of positive engagement. Over the past 2 decades, PNG has grown from being a high-tariff country to one that embraces free market principles. As some of you would know, our country is this year's host for the APEC meeting, where leaders meeting, including a series of ministerial and senior officials meeting currently happening in my country. This mammoth task of hosting such a large and technical meeting has not come without its own challenges, but I believe in its entirety and the opportunities it presents, in that it showcases to the international community what PNG and its people can offer. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the narratives being discussed in this forum offer our focus on trade, security, commerce, and governance, so as to build new regional architecture in the region for shared prosperity is very timely and welcoming. As issues and challenges become interconnected and intertwined, regional architectures need to be receptive to these issues relating to trade, security, commerce, and governance. And these proposed new architectures should embrace the common vision of promoting peace, security, and trade across the Indian and Pacific Oceans. I take this opportunity in wishing all the participants and delegates a successful outcome and safe travel back home. And we look forward to seeing some of you in PNG for the coming APEC meeting in November this year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Minister, for giving us a perspective of Papua New Guinea and how, as an important stakeholder in the IOR, it is keen to play an important role in further developing the architecture of the region. We have now finished with our speakers. It has been a very stimulating session. I will now open the floor for questions. We will follow the same principles as I said in the first session. So once the question comes up here, I will call out the questioner and ask them to direct their question to the relevant speaker, and then we'll take their questions. Just waiting for technology to work its way. Right. So we have the first question from Shrikant Kodapalli, India. Shrikant, if you may go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wells. Thank you for the speech. In the recent times, in the last 3-4 years, there has been some uncertainty in the South China Sea. The ASEAN countries were not able to provide lasting solutions for the issues in South China Sea. ASEAN appears to be a divided house with no resolution since 2010 on the issues of peace and stability in the region. In the light of this, the United States conducts nearly 18 to 20 FONOPs, Freedom of Navigation Operations, every year, but a majority of these are conducted in South American region. What are the measures that the United States takes in order to usher in peace and stability in the South China Sea?
Well, I think as you noted, we continue to do freedom of navigation operations and to work with our partners in the region to support ASEAN's deliberations over a code of conduct. I think we've learned from the South China Sea, and the South China Sea informs the conversation that we're having today. How do we more effectively create consensus around a set of principles that underscores a free and open system in the broader Indo-Pacific region?
Huh? Yeah, who's it? Samir. Samir Patel, I couldn't see his name. Okay. Samir Patel, yes, please.
Thank you. Ma'am, my question is for Secretary Wells. Your point on the private sector-led investment. Yeah. Yeah. Your point on private sector-led investment is important and appreciated. But how do you propose to bring in the strategic urgency and sense to these investments and not just focus on the commercial considerations, especially in this particular sector? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. That is what has been the focus of the Indo-Pacific initiatives put forward by the Secretary. How do we use development financing, Trade and Development Authority to create feasibility studies? How do we work jointly with Japan, India, other countries so that we can ensure that we're reinforcing each other's efforts and having a sense of what are the priority infrastructure initiatives to enhance regional connectivity? For instance, I cited the Millennium Challenge Corporation project in Nepal. A critical portion of that is the transmission line into India. That's what's going to provide in 10 years the source of financing of wealth to Nepal. So I think we've been very pleased by the level of cooperation in these informal regional groupings. There's more to be done. I think we need to better articulate a set of principles that other countries can also adopt and to reinforce. But the initiatives specifically that the Secretary announced at the Indo-Pacific Business Forum are designed to look at infrastructure, look at energy, and look at cyber ICT. And with that, thanks to Congress, or soon, I hope, thanks to Congress, once the Senate reviews the BUILD Act, we'll be able to double our development financing from $30 billion to $60 billion. So very much I agree, we do need to have a strategic purpose in these conversations.
The next question is Ambassador Tariq Karim from Bangladesh.
Thank you, Chair. Since yesterday, we've been listening to various speakers, and I think the broad ingredients that are required for constructing or putting into concrete shape the architecture that we have in mind have all been spelled out very, very clearly. The question is, what type of a building are we going to construct? My fears are that as we have overexploited resources on land and the earth, overexploitation can lead to scarcity, which can lead to conflicts between man and nature and man and man. We are all talking about the blue economy and how we can harvest it and how we can exploit. We need to have a governance system which will ensure that we do not do to the oceans, which in a sense are the last frontiers which we have not really addressed. Space will come later, perhaps in my great-grandchildren's time. What is relevant is for my children and grandchildren. What do we do to ensure that we do not do to the oceans what we have already done to the land? And perhaps, if I may suggest, this conference may attempt setting up a working group to outline what this institutional framework would be. We have all talked that it has to be rules-based. What would be the rules? What would be the areas the rules would cover? The organization which will be set up under UNCLOS, perhaps that is where we start, but targeted specifically to the IORA, would have a clear mandate, clear oversight authority, and clear enforcement authority. The laws are only as good as can be enforced. We can have platitudinal statements, but if we cannot enforce it, we will be carrying on the same way. So would the distinguished panelists have suggestions for that or suggest specific solutions? Thank you.
Any of the panelists would like to respond to that?
I'll just make a brief comment. I think that there are a variety of organizations that exist, and obviously ASEAN is very critical to the Indo-Pacific region, and we're not trying to detract from ASEAN. In fact, we want to strengthen ASEAN. I think that what we need to assess is whether how we use IORA successfully, how we use BIMSTEC, are there other regional organizations, SARC, where these same principles, the principles of free and open, freedom of navigation, open systems, good governance, security, maritime domain awareness can be promulgated. I think when you start to discuss about enforcement and legally binding, you get to the heart of issue of sovereignty. And I think we need to come together as partners in this endeavor to work together voluntarily and motivated by the same goals and by the same principles.
Right, we'll take the next question. Mr. Sovarna from Cambodia, if you could please ask your question and also let us know to which panelist is that question directed.
Okay. In legal and regional term, we are debate and create many communication and mechanism. And I would like to raise one question. How do we get the one efficiency of international mechanism? Yeah.
Okay, any specific panelists you'd like them to answer?
Which one speaker can give the answer?
Any one of you? So, Chancellor, if you'd like to say that, how do we think of these international mechanisms being efficient and effective? You know, what more can we do?
Yeah, usually in this kind of situation, we ask back to the questioner, who present the question, must have some good ideas, kind of answer to that. So please get some preparation to answer this one. I think this has been a question. I think the whole international system has been struggling for not just many years, but decades and centuries. And still, I think we are struggling to find out how we can make a certain international mechanism more effective. After the Second World War, we created the United Nations, and after the First World War, we created the predecessor of the United Nations, and we have created many tribunals and courts and so on. However, I don't think we are in full grasp of how we can make the international mechanisms efficient. But I think one of the points of our gathering here is to think about this one. And the very fact that this Indian Ocean Conference is now coming to the third one means that we have a good rationale and good intention and a good political will on all these participating countries that we all want to make certain international mechanisms in Indian Ocean region or in wider terms in Asia Pacific more efficient. And I hope that after we finish this conference today, then we hope that we might be in a better shape in answering this question. Very, very important and critical question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. That's the same question. Can we get the next one? Mr. Basu.
Yes. Well, I have a question for the South African minister. Given one of the great unsolved conundrums of history in South Africa is the question of the agrarian ownership. Is the intervention by President Donald Trump a useful intervention that we've seen in the past week on this question? And a question for Ambassador Cho as well. It's quite interesting that you talked about a southern strategy for Korean diplomacy. It's quite fascinating for us to note that Korean businesses are ubiquitous in the Indian Ocean region. Hyundai is India's largest car exporter. LG is a brand that we all know. Samsung Electronics has its biggest plant outside Korea in Vietnam, and it's probably the second biggest one coming up in India. So is diplomacy in Korea lagging business by quite a lot, or trailing by 25 years perhaps?
We take your question first, sir.
Well, I suppose I should have expected this question. No, the response by President Trump was, to say the least, unhelpful. The responses by ordinary South Africans was, to say the least, brutal. The response to his tweet. Because for so many of us, we couldn't understand the ignorance that was being portrayed. Way back in 1913, the then apartheid government passed a law, the 1913 Land Act, that said very simply that black South Africans couldn't own land in South Africa. And in the process, proceeded to remove them from the land of their birth. This was repeated in 1936, and the same thing happened again. And then much later, we had what was called the Group Areas Act, where people on the basis of their race was confined to specific areas. And so when we moved into the democratic South Africa in 1994, that exercise still had to be addressed. Now, we're in 2018 now, and we have not addressed what took place in 1913 and even before 1913, because there are a group of people in South Africa who believe that those people who came to South Africa in their ships and planted a flag on our beaches and declared South Africa as theirs, these were the first colonizers. That's all they did, nothing else. Planted a flag on the beach and said, this land, this territory is ours. Now, we're in 2018. We have a democratically elected government. So we say to those like President Trump, who are maybe ignorant of that history, what would you have us do? What we've said is, whatever we do will be done in terms of the rule of law and the South African Constitution. Very simply. We will also seek to ensure that food security in South Africa is not in any way threatened. But we will not be deterred by the road we have chosen to travel. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the second part of the question comes to me. In a sense, I think Korean diplomacy has been lagging behind the Korean economic ventures or adventures or whatever. Korean economic development has been achieved, I think, ever since the 1960s, 60s, 70s, 80s, something like that. And Korean, many conglomerates has been making some presence in not just in East Asia, but in Europe and in Africa, in Latin America, and so on. But in terms of security issues, when hardcore security is concerned, then we have ever to face the effect of the division on the peninsula. And you know that there has always been some kind of flare-ups along the border and so on. So whenever this kind of thing happens, then all the attention of Korean government and the people needs to be focused on these issues. It means that diplomacy should be focused on this Korean peninsula and the nearby areas, Northeast Asia, in order to lower the tension and to make the peace and stability on the peninsula take hold. So in that sense, Korean diplomacy has been lagging behind. We wanted to go out, but not so much. We were not able to afford that much of room of maneuvering in that way. But as I said in my remarks, that now maybe if we can find, as I said, we can find some silver lining on the horizon, and if we can make some further advances in the process, which we started in early this year, the South-North Korea rapprochement and improvement in relationship between United States and North Korea. If we are facing some hiccups these days, but if this process continues and if we can make some progress toward establishing a permanent security, permanent peace regime on the peninsula, hopefully in the near future, then I think Korean diplomacy can afford more and better. Maybe then I think we can see that diplomacy is not just lagging behind the economy, but maybe they can go side by side. Thank you.
Yes, Min Tu from Myanmar, for Secretary.
Thank you, Ms. Well. Actually, we have heard about the new Indo-Pacific strategy by the Trump administration, and we also heard about the free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. But we don't really hear about the foreign policy perspective following that Indo-Pacific strategy, particularly towards the Indian Ocean. Thank you, ma'am.
As I outlined in my remarks, the Indo-Pacific strategy has the three prongs: the economic, the governance, and the security. And that's made possible by the very strong bilateral relations that we seek to have with the countries of the region. As I mentioned, on the 6th of September, we'll be conducting our first 2+2 meeting in Delhi. Secretary Pompeo and Secretary Mattis will meet their counterparts. But with each of the countries, with Bangladesh, Nepal, from which I just came, Sri Lanka, we have vibrant partnerships that are multidimensional. And it's going to require, I think, that bilateral foundation to make our, regional diplomacy most effective. And so the most recent announcements that you heard from Secretary Pompeo were designed to give us additional tools, as we engage with the countries of the region to buttress, their and our capabilities to work together in these three pillars.
Dan Sun Chen. Yes, please.
Well, thank you very much. I'd just like to make a real quick comment. Because I think the Prime Minister Modi's Act East policy is strategically aligned with Taiwan's New Southbound policy, because both our nations seek to reposition our roles in our neighborhood community. And as we know, the New Southbound policy, with its emphasis on creating diverse forms of human linkages, seeks to foster civil society connections among the diverse countries in the Indo-Pacific region. This relationship will evolve into stronger and more resilient partnership as both countries facing common regional challenges and working towards building a regional prosperity. Thank you very much. This is my comment. Yeah.
Next question.
My name is Wong Gi-cho from Korea. I'd like to raise a question to Secretary Wells.
Sorry, can I just follow the sequence? I have somebody, I'll come back to you.
All right.
Please.
Okay.
We have Ambassador Stobden from India.
Ms. Wells, as you're aware that India is the only Indo-Pacific or Indian Ocean country which also has a large land borders in the Eurasian world. How United States is trying to balance the two, as you are also Secretary to South Asia and Central Asia, in terms of Afghanistan and other policies, because it looks very, you are going your own way in that area without thinking much about the Indian issues in terms of Eurasia.
I'm not sure I understand the premise of the question. I think the Trump administration has been, from the very beginning, very focused on the South Asia region and the Indo-Pacific region. In fact, two of the administration's key foreign policies or strategies, one, the South Asia strategy, the second, the Indo-Pacific strategy, have really governed how we approach the region. With respect to the South Asia strategy, India's important role in Afghanistan is recognized openly, I think probably for the first time, what India brings to the table in terms of development assistance and ability to help stabilize Afghanistan. As the United States has worked in our relationship with Pakistan to try to persuade Pakistan to move beyond tolerance for safe havens or support for any terrorist proxy groups on its territories. Again, I think that has been part of a broader regional approach that very much, I think takes into account the interests and the shared strategic objectives that we have with India to defeat terrorism in all of its forms. So perhaps I missed something in the question, but I would say on both sides of how we define the Indo-Pacific to the west coast of India, which I know is not the same definition of others on this panel or by of this meeting. But on both sides of that border, we're very much engaged.
Ambassador Rizwani. Yes, please. No.
Yes, thank you. Do I have the floor, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the floor. Let me start off by a very minor procedural suggestion, if I may, that I think this new system of reflecting questions and queries sometimes is not very effective, because I did try during the last panel to put my question forward, but there was no response. And had I not raised my hand to draw your attention, I would have ended up probably the same conclusion, that no chance would have been provided for me. Whereby here, I think we can simply see each other by raising hand, and without any specific requirements, we can ask for the floor. Now, that's up to you to decide whether what kind of ruling you will have on it. But having said that, sir, I have a comment and a couple of queries. Well, it would be addressed to the panelists, and it's up to them, considering the nature of my comment as well as the question. Whoever feels that it is fit to respond, I will certainly welcome that. As far as my the comment is regarding the security networking. I believe that we are in a platform, in an environment where we can talk a little bit with a higher degree of flexibility. Distance from officiality of track one diplomacy, this environment permits us to explore other possibilities, including the fact that we can talk in a little bit more frank tone, candidly, and devoid of any restraint. Now, having cleared my views, I would like to start off by saying that given the current interconnected world and the special condition of our Persian Gulf region, which has experienced the most bitter and destructive crises in the past 4 decades, engaging in bloc formations and alliances, have proven to be inefficient. As such, power bloc forewarns a forthcoming crisis and aggression. On the other hand, differences in size, population, economic, and military strength creates permanent concerns and reliance on foreign powers, resulting in the illusion of buying security that leads only to insecurity and the increase in distrust. At the same time, attempts aimed to create collective security regime is unrealistic and leads to failure. It seems that security networking based on synergy and inclusion is the only way out of this dangerous vicious circle. In this security networking, all big and small regional states participate on the basis of purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, including sovereign equality of states, refrainment from the threat or use of force, peaceful resolution of conflicts, respect for territorial integrity of states, non-intervention in the domestic affairs of states, and respect for self-determination of a state by their own peoples.
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
that
excuse
brings
me.
me to the end of my comment, and a very quick question, sir. The question is, I would like to second what the statement made by a distinguished colleague from Korea in respect to the ongoing negotiation developments between North and South Korea, and the fact that you very professionally adopted the art of diplomacy with a direct communication with Pyongyang, and you actually made a historic rapprochement. And I think what is needed here is a sort of strategic patience on the side of supra-regional actors to have to be patient and to see to stick to their promises, something that nowadays we do not hear any longer. Flip-flaps, U-turns, and changing obligation is the name
Sir,
of the game.
Sir, may I ask you to be brief because
Yes,
we're running out of time.
Okay.
If you have a question,
That
otherwise
question
we will
is-
have time after this panel for you to talk
Yes,
to the
sir.
panelists.
Well, the question is that how would the panelists foresee that if we can sort of maintain a more solid, reliable, predictable, and responsible reaction to different crises, and getting away or forgetting about breaking of the international agreements, I think it would go a long way in meeting the requirements of today's world. That's my point. Whoever
Any
to answer. Thank
panelists
you.
want to react to that? Fine.
Frankly, sorry to you, but frankly, I was not able to pick up your question fully. But just to add a little bit on what I mentioned in my remarks, what we are trying to do is before last year, you remember that the last year the tension on the Korean Peninsula around the region was very, very high, and this year we have seen some kind of reversal, and we have started a process of negotiation or dialogue. Before that, we called it maximum pressure and engagement, and now we have started the engagement process. As I said, we do not see that this process will be easy and would make a result in a very, very short time. It will take time, we know that. But if I want to pick up the positive tone from this process, then it means that we are in a positive cycle at least. We are not going back, at least. So there can be some timeline, and the time is not indefinite, unlimited. So we need to facilitate and precipitate the process. But as long as this process in a positive cycle is continued, then I think we have to do our best to get some result from this one. So that's what we are trying to do, and that's what we are in constant consultation with our friends in Washington and in Japan and some other in Beijing and even in Moscow. So hopefully, let's just see, I think we can make some progress.
Last question. We'll now take the final question.
Yeah,
this is from Mr. Wong Cho from Korea.
Yeah, I'm Wong Cho from Korea. I'd like to ask a quick question to Ms. Wells. With the announcement of the economic programs by Secretary Pompeo last month, and also the security cooperation program, I think U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy has evolved from the abstract initiative with abstract principles and norms into more tangible, concrete policy programs with budgets. But I'm wondering, how would you go forward with the implementation of this initiative? So you talked about the flexible regional groupings of like-minded countries. So how would you go forward with this in a bilateral way or trilateral way, or are you thinking about organizing some sort of like-minded group among the regional countries? So I mean, yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
It's going to be a mix of bilateral and these regional groupings. I mean, the bilateral relationships are obviously key to implementation of the specific initiatives that the Secretary announced with respect to the Bay of Bengal initiative, for instance. But how do we try to have the strategic approach that the other questioner asked about is, I think that's where we need to work in these, informal groupings, and all of us have them. All of us are engaged in trilateral, quadrilateral, various regional formats, and in these formats, I think we all need to take up the question of how do we move forward with endorsing and implementing principles of free and open, maritime pathways. And so I think it's going to be a combination. It's by no means meant to be exclusive. I've heard, I think, in several of your questioners, this idea that there was a club or that we were trying to, fence off countries with whom we were going to work. That's certainly not the intention. The intention is like, how do we build out? How do we gather consensus around an approach, and then, work through all of the various formats that we're engaged in to inculcate those principles and actions across a range of organizations.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this riveting session. We will now bring this to a close. We have a small ceremony that we do to close our sessions. I will now request one of my colleagues, Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, to please come up to the stage to present the mementos to the various panelists. If you could start with Minister Nakane, State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Japan. Her Excellency Alice Wells, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs, U.S. State Department. His Excellency Llewellyn Landers, Deputy Minister of International Relations, South Africa. His Excellency Cho Byung-jae, Chancellor, Korea National Diplomatic Academy, South Korea. His Excellency William Samb, Minister assisting the Prime Minister, Papua New Guinea. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now close the session. We will now break out for lunch and reconvene again in this hall at 1:30 sharp for the third session. Thank you very much, everybody.